Hey everyone, today I want to dive into this week 2 matchup between the Packers and the Vikings. I'll first talk through how the offense was able to move the ball with Aaron Rodgers injured and against this dominant Vikings defense that's always given us problems. And then talk about the defense, what we did good early, and then how it fell apart late. So, first I just want to say Jamal Williams, Ty Montgomery had huge games. Now, not statistically, and combined their statistics were good. But it was all the little things they did, and it was more of their role in pass blocking that allowed for offensive success. And generally, just our offensive line did a great job. I mean, I feel like when we play the Vikings, the biggest battle is the line, and they're built to make games tough for us because of the way we run our offense and their pass covering abilities and then their defensive lines. And so we did a really good job of getting this offensive line ready. They did a great job of actually executing, and the running backs did a great job of helping out. And we did a lot of double teaming Linval Joseph and staying away from Harrison Smith and kind of exploiting the wide outside pursuits of Daniil Hunter and Everson Griffin. And then finally, Jimmy Graham, week 1, he was schemed against a lot. This game, not so much, but in particularly at least the one play where the Devontae Adams got the touchdown, you can tell his team still really focus on him and care about him in the red zone, and it's allowing other people to make a lot of plays. And then defensively, Kevin King was going to have a really important role in this game, and when we lost him in the second half, the Vikings were able to exploit that, and so that was tough. Our run defense was dominant. The only time the Vikings were able to run against us was when it was away from Kenny Clark and Mike Daniels, and a lot of the success involved counters to their side and double teaming the backside, or just runs to that side where Cook cut to the backside. And other than that, they tried to run the ball so much all game long, and they just weren't that successful. So they didn't have a lot of offensive production until late in the game. They decided to run a lot of play action and use a lot of motion, and they had been using a lot of motion throughout the game, trying to identify when the Packers were running man. Even if they were doing a run game, they were just trying to see what Mike Pettin was trying to call and how he was trying to use matchups, and that the personnel lineup and the motions really identified that. And later in the game, they started just basically to realize that the Packers were covering the middle of the field shorts because they were hitting play actions. They were picking on the man scheme. And so when these safeties started creeping up in the third and fourth quarter and they were just daring Cousins to throw it deep and outside, he started to hit them. And when Kevin King wasn't there, they were successful. So let's get into talking about how the Vikings run their defense first, and then I can explain how the offense was able to counter that. Alright, so I'm going to talk real quickly about the Vikings defense, how they line up, and their strengths and weaknesses, and so I can get into how the Packers decided to attack it. So the Vikings run a lot of cover 1, cover 3, but the most important thing about their defense is how they line up, because if you know how they're gonna line up, you can figure out how to avoid their better players and what they're gonna do. So one thing that is really important in this defense is the safety alignment. So you have Harrison Smith and Sendejo, and Harrison Smith is a monster. He's usually much better in the box than he is deep coverage, but both safeties can play either in the box or deep, and they usually like to bring a safety down and stop the run. Even though they can stop the run with the 4 up front, 2 linebackers, they do like to bring one down and force teams into third and long, because basically with the way the Vikings can pass rush, if you can force a team into third and long, I mean, they're always going to get off the field. That's just basically how their defense operates. But the most important thing about the safeties is their alignment. And in a football field, you have the boundary side, where it's the smaller side of the field, where wherever the ball is lined up on the hash marks, whether it's the left side or the right side, whatever is the closed side of the field, the short side of the field, that's where Harrison Smith lines up. whatever is the open side of the field, which is basically the more open side of the field, that's when where Sendejo lines up, and that's the only rule these safeties follow. And the linebackers actually are the same. So Anthony Barr will always play on the close side in front of Harrison Smith, and Eric Kendricks, who's a bit faster, better in coverage, scattier, he's going to line up with Sendejo. But again, these safeties, they can either they can play in the box or they can play deep. It really doesn't matter. They're very versatile. It's just that that's the rule. So that's the only thing that's important, because now you know really where they're lining up and where they're going to be and how you can expect to avoid Harrison Smith, because he's a monster. And then lastly, just from a cornerback position, Xavier Rhodes always plays on the left side of the defense, so you have him down here. He always plays outside on the left. He doesn't switch sides. He's the left side cornerback. They have rules for their defensive line, but that's much less important for this breakdown, or what I want to get into what they did. But so when I talk about Jamal Williams and Ty Montgomery having big games, one thing the Packers did was they lined up the running back in shotgun always on Harrison Smith's side. So whether the Vikings wanted to blitz Harrison Smith or they wanted to pull him out in some kind of coverage, they always lined him up against that, because Harrison Smith he's a run defense monster. He's a great blitzer, and he's just wreaks havoc. And Anthony Barr. So they basically put the running back always on the side they knew they were going to be, to help with pass protection. So we're going to get into some of the things they did. Also, real quickly, the Vikings love to do the double A-gap blitz, where they spread their defensive linemen out wide here and here, and put the two linebackers middle, and they either blitz or they drop. Again, that's another great thing. Anthony Barr is always on the boundary side, so when they would blitz, the running back would be on that side to pick up the blitz, and the Packers always had a good solution for that look as well, and stepping up and blocking. So let's get into some game film on some great pass blocks. Alright, so the most important part of how the Packers were able to move the ball successfully this whole game was the run game and the extended run game. And then, of course, the pass blocking by the running backs. But, so, the Vikings, again, like I said, the Vikings want to get you in 3rd and long. That is their whole goal, because they have one of the best pass rushing and pass coverage combos in the whole league. And every time the Packers got in 3rd and long, it was a punt. They didn't convert any 3rd and longs, and most teams don't. And so it was just really important for the Packers to have a very effective run game or efficient passing game to keep 3rd downs and 2nd downs manageable. And so they did it through the run game, and they did it through an extended run game. And so one thing I love that they did with the extended run game is, and this is a great design, is they made plays look like run plays, and they were actually pass plays. So in this play, the infamous where you run a zone scheme and you pull the tight end backside and cut backside, they ran that whole look, but then ended up passing the ball outside for, it's just an extended run play, but they distracted the entire defense on this run look and got the ball out to Cobb, who was then covered by Jaron Kearse, who he could easily beat. And again, they stayed away from Harrison Smith, and they got the ball outside, and it was a successful run play. Alright, and then not just the extended running game, but the real run game. And they did a lot of different things to have success against the Vikings, which is why they were able to run the ball, and it was genius. So they don't have the best run blocking line, but their scheme allowed for such great things. So they opened the game with, extended run play look, and that was successful. And then they came back and had a power look, and so they wanted one really important thing that the Packers need to do, and a lot of teams need to do with the run game is even when they have a run game, especially against the Vikings, that a run play that looks like it's a run play, successfully run it. If you can't do that, then you're going to have problems. But, you can do a lot out of formation if you can line up looking like a run play and actually be successful. And there's only so many ways the Packers can do that. One of the things that was pretty genius here, and they were able to do it without double teaming Linval Joseph, was they exploited this outside rush the Vikings like to get. So after a big first down, the Packers come out in a strong formation, and the Vikings are probably thinking one of two things: a play action and a deep pass, or a run play, and they've got enough guys in the box. Now, this is a really good play because it does two things. They expose Kendricks and Barr all game, but here, right off the bat, they run a power play to this side. They're pulling the guard, and one thing with Anthony Barr is sometimes he's not always disciplined in his run holes, and so it pulls him and distracts him. And then you've got the space outside here created by Griffin rushing wide, and it leaves a wide open hole where they don't even have to double team Linval Joseph. Now, don't get me wrong, the play is designed to go up in this hole, but because of that pursuit, that play gives them two great options. And picking on Anthony Barr pulling back or from the front side, and then knowing that they're going to have in the wide 9 set, Jamal Williams knows he has that cutback lane, so he can either hit the hole or he doesn't have to think about it because he knows that outside lane is going to be open. And then 2 plays after that successful run, the Packers came back and ran one of their patent play action deep passes. So right now, the Packers have given them a few looks. They've given them a run look with an extended run play. They've given them a genuine run play that they knew would be successful, dependent on how the Vikings were to scheme the run defense. And then they give the same formation later with a play action pass that actually is successful. Devontae Adams catches it, but he doesn't. And so far, they've given the Vikings a few things to think about: an extended run game, a real run game, and then they have to worry about these deep play action passes. So right off the bat, the Vikings, it keeps them on their toes because they don't, even when the Packers go to run the ball, they're not sure where they're going to run it or what they're going to do, because they were able to run the ball in a strong set against when the Vikings knew they were going to run the ball. And then they had little wrinkles off of that. Alright, and then on the next drive, again, to stick with the theme of trying to keep the third down short, the Packers tried, on the first down, they tried a run look that wasn't successful. It was a play action. And then, so now that it's 2nd and 10, they come out with another extended run game where they line up 5 wide, and they're just looking for whoever presses off the man for a quick pass. And so they bring out Marquez Valdez-Scantling and some other guys, and they know that he's a deep man that doesn't run a lot of routes, and Trey Waynes was injured. So when he's playing off of him, the Packers just say, all right, we need to get a 3rd and short, so a quick pass play out to him to set up a 3rd. All right, so now it's 3rd and short after that short pickup on 2nd down, and I want to just kind of show this play because there's so many things packed into this one play. It's quite masterful, and kind of goes against some of what I was saying earlier too. So the Packers come out in this 3rd down, and notice the alignment. The Packers have some bunch over here, and I'm sure the Vikings are probably thinking there's some sort of combination route here. And if there's not, with the running back lined up on this side, who he's lined up here because they were expecting Harrison Smith and Barr to be lined up on this side, the Vikings might be trying to play the run, because if the running back's lined up here, he's really only going to run outside. And so Aaron Rodgers is really thrown off by this because he's wondering, why are Anthony Barr and Harrison Smith on this side? And his first thought is, oh, these guys must be blitzing. And so if they're going to be blitzing, he moves Randall Cobb to this side because if they're going to be blitzing, he wants to hit him on some open field. Now watch as he moves motions over. What happens? The Vikings immediately they roll coverage over to this side, and they roll Anthony Barr and Harrison Smith back here. Now, once this happens, this is just so smart by Ty Montgomery and the Packers offense. So now they're looking at this. This is the double A gap that I was talking about. And there's a few things you can tell by this that the Packers are really smart in knowing. Now, notice how these guys are set. Kendricks is lined up in this hole. He's going to blitz. Now, Harrison Smith is lined up in here, but first of all, he's not actually as much on the line, so it's kind of a little giveaway that he's not blitzing. But the biggest giveaway that he wasn't going to blitz was that before the play started, he was lined up over here. So just the motion of Cobb allowed the Packers to read into this defense. And so off the snap, Montgomery knows he's blitzing, he's not. And outside man is Balaga's responsibility. It's not a big deal. So after the switch, they're all communicating, and they know Harrison Smith isn't coming. And so it's just a beautiful play design, but even more proud is Ty Montgomery's pass protection. He knows exactly who to pick up and picks it up beautifully. Great communication. They double team Linval Joseph over here, right? Oh no, that's Sheldon Richardson. But the center and them double team the other inside rusher. Ty Montgomery being able to block a blitzing linebacker one-on-one is huge, because I don't think he could do that in the past. And him and Jamal Williams over and over made such big plays doing that. And this was a great block, and it allowed Rodgers, this was his scramble for the first down. Again, not a huge play in the stat sheet, but that block allowed for this first down and was a really, really good block and important play. Alright, so after that big conversion on third down, the very next play, the Packers line up in shotgun with Ty Montgomery again, boundary side, and they have a pretty good look in this play, and they already kind of know it can be successful, because this is so the outside zone is about the only thing Ty Montgomery is good at, but he's really good at it. And so as he's lined up, you got Eric Kendricks over here. They again have another good favorable matchup where they can run the ball successfully. And again, so Eric Kendricks always plays this open side of the field, and he's a good linebacker. He's better in coverage than he is run blocking. And because he's just not the most strong, the best tackler. And so this play gets outside, and well, I switched down. We missed that part. But here we go. Run to outside, and the Packers are betting that Ty Montgomery can win that one-on-one battle, and he does. That's one thing, one run he's so solid at. And so again, they run another run play on first down that's successful, and one that they know they can win. Alright, so next play, right after that good Montgomery run, the Packers run another run play. And a few important things to note here, and what kind of game the Packers are trying to do. So the Packers are, again, their biggest priority is they want to run the ball in this game, and they just want to get themselves in successful looks to do it, and then they'll do it. And so, why is this a successful look? For two reasons. Let me pause it here. He's just staring at this front, he sees 6. He's pretty certain that they can get a good run look. Why? Well, this isn't Linval Joseph. So, they've got 6 in the box. If he motions Jimmy Graham over, you've now got 6 blocking 6. It's just a numbers game with the run game. And the most important thing is with 6 on 6 like this, is that you don't have to double team Linval Joseph. So off this run play, again, they know they can run on Barr and Kendricks. So the single team on not Linval Joseph allows Jamal Williams to get outside here, and another successful run. And so again, it's playing matchups, playing numbers, knowing what you can do, and having the priority to run the ball because it keeps third down short. And the run game wasn't necessarily key to the success from using a play action standpoint. It was key to the success just being able to keep third down short. All right, sticking with the same drive. This has nothing to do with the running backs or the running game. I just wanted to show execution. Look at this offensive line. Look at that. Double team the inside. Look at Bakhtiari handling Griffin on the outside. Bulaga. Bulaga got a little chip help from Ty, but look at that. One-on-one, everyone's winning. This was also such a key success. Just execution. You don't need to show this on film, and it's nothing smart. I just wanted to show how you can appreciate the good execution of this offensive line. All right, here's the second big pass or blitz pickup by the running backs that's so important. So this Packers offense is surrounded by built around Aaron Rodgers. So actually, a pass blocking running back is probably the most important position or ability for a running back in this offense, especially against the Vikings. So a lot of people are wondering when Aaron Jones comes back, is he going to take Jamal Williams' spot and all that? He might from a running standpoint, but Jamal Williams is still going to get on the field a lot, and this is exactly why. His pass protection is absolutely elite. And this is especially important against the Vikings going forward. When they play the Vikings again, he's going to be playing a lot. Because teams that have a pass-catching running back still aren't going to be too successful with them. Because you say, oh, well, if he can't pass block, we'll just line him up outside and throw to him. Well, that doesn't really work. The Vikings get there so quickly, and the rest of their defense swarms so fast and such good tacklers, you're not really going to make them miss, especially with Harrison Smith on the outside. And so the only way to really work or move the ball is to pick up this blitz and force these outside players to cover for a long time. And that's exactly what happens on this play. Again, great execution by the offensive line to communicate, know who they're picking up, and look at him step up in the hole and pick up this blitzer. It's beautiful. And Eric Kendricks is actually blitzing too, but he doesn't see that there's a hole there because Jamal Williams has stoned Anthony Barr so well in that hole that he doesn't even find a hole, and it extends the play, and Davante Adams can get wide open now. Davante Adams got open early in this play, but Aaron Rodgers, he wasn't the first read, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't see him because of the collapsing pocket. But it allows the play to extend, and Davante Adams he eventually finds him open. And so the Vikings have a really good pass rush, can get there quickly, and they're also a smart defense. They take away your first read. So if this defense can take away the first read, which makes your quarterback have to look more before he can get the pass off, they can get to you before he can go through his progression. So as long as they understand what the first read is as well, even if you move a running back out wide, he's never going to make a play he's going to get tackled. So the only way to really be successful is to pick up this blitz, and Jamal Williams does exactly that. And, Aaron Jones can't do this. Ty Montgomery showed some great pass protection as well, but he is their best pass blocking player. He is one of the most important players of this game because of that, and allows for this. And so when everyone looks at the box score and says, oh, Jamal Williams can't run the football, it doesn't matter. If you can do that and allow your biggest talent, your most talented player to do what he needs to do, that's all you need. And so Jamal Williams is such a good sign or draft pick in terms of being matchup specific player, because they can use him against the Vikings in this manner. It extends the play, and he was such a big reason why they were able to pass the ball against the Vikings. Alright, so this is the touchdown play shortly after what just happened, and we're going to go through why Jimmy Graham is schemed upon still. So when you watch the alignment and the formation, Jimmy Graham's in the slot. I mean, the thought of him running upfield and just hitting him on a seam, especially with two high safeties, is terrifying for a defense because he can do it. He's tall, he will catch that ball in traffic, and it's going to be hard to beat. And so, with this alignment, having two wide safeties, the Vikings are kind of baiting him to read Jimmy Graham first, right? And get their pass rush down the field. Again, that's what I said. They do like to take away obvious reads. And so what happens on this play, right off the snap, the look, two deep safeties, immediately you want to think Jimmy Graham going down corner, and you see Harrison Smith immediately books it to cover Jimmy Graham. Aaron Rodgers doesn't even bother with it, and he hits Devontae Adams out here on this out route. But the most important thing that I just wanted to show is Jimmy Graham is still making an impact because Harrison Smith completely abandoned that field segment and allowed Devontae Adams to make a run after the catch for the touchdown. You don't see it from this angle; you only see it from the other angle. But yeah, one more time, right off the snap. Speed forward. Harrison Smith books it for Jimmy Graham. Rodgers sees it immediately and goes to Dante Adams quickly and touchdown. And again, teams are still scheming for him in the red zone, and it's freeing up so many opportunities because it's giving one-on-one matchups for other players. And another pass blocking play, this time by Ty Montgomery. This is a 3rd and long, and again, if it wasn't erroneously called offensive pass interference, this would have been a first down. But here you have Ty Montgomery here, line up boundary side, Harrison Smith boundary side, and Aaron Rodgers motions to him who to pick up. And Harrison Smith breaks through. Ty Montgomery, what a good blitz pickup, especially against a player like Harrison Smith. Because again, Ty Montgomery wasn't known for that. And Harrison Smith is a great blitzer. But again, he picks it up. And because they're blitzing like that, it's one-on-one coverage. The Packers have the quarterback with the accurate throw to make this play happen, and the wide receiver with the talent to make it happen. And it did. It was erroneously a pass interference. But again, the importance and such a big role it plays for a pass blocking running back. If he can do this successfully, you can beat the Vikings. And we're going to get into the third quarter, and this is another play this is actually a brilliant design, and this was a touchdown, but the refs were awful again and called offensive pass interference. But this is another way Jimmy Graham is improving this offense. So this is Jimmy Graham up here, isolated, and this was the play where he caught the touchdown, and they called the holding penalty. But look at this design. And the Packers are using this again to their advantage to get one-on-one matchups for their great players, and here's why. So off the snap, if there's a blitz, you got Jamal Williams, and you can call this play because you have complete confidence if they do blitz. He's got this pickup. So his performance is allowing for bolder play calls. Now remember on the last play I showed you where Harrison Smith bolted to Jimmy Graham off the snap. Well, they just isolated Jimmy Graham out here, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers has just a 2-read play. It's essentially just, if he doesn't come over here, you got one-on-one against Trey Waynes, that's an easy win. But watch this other route as this play develops right here. Oh, stop. Right here, Randall Cobb coming on a post route. It's a genius design. Because you isolate Randall Cobb on Sendejo, who's not a terrible open field safety, but he's not going to cover Randall Cobb on a two-way go. And so if this play had gone down the way it did on Devontae Adams' touchdown, where Harrison Smith books it, then Cobb's wide open for a touchdown. So the Vikings, this is a great... mentally, this is an interesting game they played because the last time, they thought with the two wide safety split look that they would try to seam it to Jimmy Graham, and off the snap he booked it, trying to take away that first read and hope that the pass rush could get there. This time, the Vikings on purpose left Jimmy Graham out here thinking, all right, well, Jimmy Graham's going to be, or they're going to think that we're booking to them. So their first read this time is actually going to be the seam. So let's cover that first, that what we think's the first read, and see if a pass rush can get there. Of course, it doesn't. And so it's a great play design because either this safety goes and Randall Cobb's wide open, or you have one-on-one. And so the Vikings chose to cover the slot, the middle of the field, thinking that was his first read, and it might have been. We'll look at where he looks in the next view, but it just leaves Jimmy Graham one-on-one, and this is what he brings to the offense. Is he catches that, it's a touchdown. The only thing that nullifies it is actually the holding call. So I guess in theory you could say it was good by the Vikings because their pass rush was able to get there, because he took away the first read and it's not a quick out. But it's a really good play design by the Packers, and it's just predicated off of what happened previously in the red zone. And the Vikings adjusted too, you can tell. And let's see where Aaron Rodgers looks first in this view. It's really slow. Alright, off the snap. He's already looking Jimmy Graham's way. So this actually isn't even... Jimmy Graham was just the first read. The Vikings got that wrong, and it was a touchdown, but a holding call pulled that back. But just some mind games back and forth these two played throughout the game. And the Packers won a lot of those mind games offensively, not defensively. Alright, so that was the Packers offense, and again, just to summarize what the most important parts of this was, the only time the Packers were able to drive and score was when they kept it down, second down and third down and short, when they got good amount of yards on first and second down, and a lot of that was set up by the run game, and then some of the other big plays were just set up by good pass protection. And that was about it. That was all they could do all day because of how the Vikings defense operates, but that's kind of the only way you're going to end up beating them, unless you can just line up man for man and block them in the run game all day long, which really no teams can do. So it's funny to see how both of these divisional teams have built each other to beat the other's strengths, and it's kind of a back and forth each year, interesting thing to watch. But let's move on to the defense. Now, my first bullet point was how important Kevin King was in this play. So I'll show you what happens on this play and what else happened the rest of the game and why he would have been great. And eventually, I mean, this play is just a deep pass to Stefon Diggs. But King's height and speed are what makes him important in this matchup. And if you watch him when you're on the outside, they try to go deep, and he's got no safety help. But what are two things that are most important? One, he can run with Stefon Diggs. Kevin King ran a 4.3 something at the combine, and he's also 6'3". So Stefon Diggs is incredibly fast, yes, but the most important part of this play is that he played press on him, and he can run with him down the field. None of the other guys on our team can really do that, and it shows. Well, that's not true. Some people can run with him, but no one has the height. And so whenever you talk about deep ball confidence, with having the height and the size, or the speed and the height, it's much harder to hit a ball downfield. And the Vikings tried it this one play, and it wasn't successful. But once he went out in the second half, that's when the Vikings started to take some shots late in the game. And I'll show you why they were clued in on where to take those shots and how. So before I go into all of that, coverage explanation, the breakdowns late in the fourth quarter and what the Vikings saw, let's talk about the most important part, and something that kind of set up a lot of things was the run game. The whole game, the Vikings wanted to establish the run game. They weren't very successful because we have one of the best run defense units in the whole league, and that's because of these two right here, Mike Daniels and Kenny Clark. Now, the Vikings brought out all sorts of looks and did all sorts of things, but not much of it worked. And the one thing that I did realize, or that I noticed did work, was whenever the Packers would line up on one side with Daniels and Clark, kind of, the Vikings would run a counter, and it would just basically counter to their side to get them flowing this way, and just try to hope that they could block them long enough to get to this backside where they double teamed Lowry. And this play is exactly so they ran this a few times and it was successful. But this was the only way they were able to block them out of the play and create some holes was simply by like running a fake to their side to get them to move, and then hopefully just standing on their side hoping they couldn't collapse fast enough. And so the Vikings ran this quite a few times, and it was really one of the only successful run plays. They did have a few other successful run plays, but for the most part, they weren't scoring when they were running the ball a lot. And that was because we were playing good run defense. But occasionally, they were able to run these runs successfully. And so why was this important? Well, as they stuck with the run throughout the game, what ended up happening was they would run in the third quarter they started to run play action, and when they would run play action in short passes, and those started to become successful. Why? Because they noticed throughout the game as they were running motions that the Packers were running a lot of man, and even when the Vikings weren't running or a pass play, they were still sending digs in motion a lot, just to get a feel for what down the Packers and what kind of personnel they were playing man in. So let me show you what I was talking about with this motion stuff. So this is first quarter on a first down. And if you all know the touchdown, Stefan, the first touchdown he scored, it was basically just he kept running around like this and got a step on Tramon Williams to the side, and he was able to score a touchdown off of a pick route. And so the Vikings did this a lot this game. What they would do is they ran the ball a lot and relentlessly and stuck to it. And then on top of it, so this is randomly first down and nothing. But as you can see, if you watch this game, you would know what I'm talking about. Diggs running back and forth here. They brought him in motion constantly, whether they got him the ball or not. Now this play, they do get him the ball. And they see, you know, when it's Jair Alexander, they only got 1 yard on this play. But there's another, I'm not going to get into all the plays they ran this because it was quite a bit, and this video will get pretty long. But the most important point of what I'm saying is they would do this even on plays where they were just running the football. They were just going to run it. But what they were doing throughout the game was it was cueing them that there was a lot of man coverage going on, and they were kind of trying to figure out what personnel, what looks, and when they were running man, and what to do with it. And it kind of led to that touchdown. They knew what they were going to do later, and I'll show that next. So here's the touchdown. Now Kevin King's out of the game, and there's a speed advantage in this wide receiving core. Now again, the Vikings do this back and forth as they did all game. Again, some plays didn't even bother whether they were designed to digs. Others did. So they'd been doing it all game. The Packers aren't actually sure if they're going to force this to him because they had done it all game. But as you can see, he's going back and forth. He's watching Tramon Williams. He's watching, first of all, who's covering him and what Tramon Williams is doing. Next thing you know, he explodes out of his route and has a step on him. And off this pick route, you're just not going to defend that. And this was a great play design, and they had actually kind of set this up all game long because they were kind of trying to test when they would play man and when they would play zone. And, I mean, they just got this right after baiting it all game long. They hit it for a touchdown. Alright, so this is a play after the touchdown, and I'm just going to show you why it's important. So, as I mentioned, the Vikings just stuck with the run game all day long, even if it wasn't that successful. They stuck to the run game, and then they also stuck to this short intermediate side of the field with crosses and stuff. So they ran digs in motion, tried to expose when the Packers were running man and when they weren't. And then they started to hit play action on crosses or just pass plays that were crosses and, you know, just plays designed to beat man. So they started to be kind of successful with that, judging by how they were lining up the personnel, where they were seeing the Packers lined up. And just picking, you know, right place to do it. But also, so there's a few things. One, you know, wondering whether Kirk Cousins can hit the deep ball consistently because he doesn't have the strongest arm. And two, the way they like to play more of a West Coast offense, the Packers started to try to take away this middle of the field And so they stopped the run game. They were pressing inside, and so what you were starting to notice as the game was going on, the Vikings on film, was the Packers were using their safeties to play in deep, right? So when they're using their safeties playing deep, these cornerbacks were responsible for the deep half of the field. And so this play I'm just showing you, when what they were noticing, whenever the cornerback was lined up deep, so sometimes this can mean it's cover 3, sometimes it could just be man, he's playing off, and he has inside leverage, so this could have been man. But what they started to notice is every time there was a deep cornerback, the Packers would have the safety play middle of the field regardless. And these cornerbacks would be responsible for the outside of the field. And so I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because, and coming up, but basically what you now have is the Packers don't have Kevin King, and they have safeties playing this inside. Because, too, remember the touchdown that Kevin King got beat on in the first half was just an inside post right up the middle of the field. And it was just, one of the easier passes to convert because it's not outside, and he was leveraged outside. And so the Vikings had successfully attacked this middle the whole time, so the Packers decided to take it away. And the big plays in the third and fourth quarter that ensued were because of this. I'm going to show you them coming up. Here's one more play in the third quarter that tipped off the Vikings. And let me stop it here. So it looks like the Packers are actually playing cover 2. So it's not really the coverages they ended up being beat on late. But I wanted to show, this gets put on film for the Vikings to know. It's more about the Packers showing what their priority was. So off the snap of this ball, there's just no one out here. The Packers are running, I think, pretty sure it's cover 2. Tremont Williams over here, you got a man running deep, and you've got another man running deep. Now, Tremont Williams isn't sure if both of these men are crossing or what. The safety's not really sure, but look at the safety as he is playing outside looking for these shorter routes. And this safety, is responsible for this half of the field. Instead of watching the outside, he's covering this middle. Tremont Williams is looking middle. Everyone is looking middle to take away the middle. What does that leave? Adam Thielen wide open deep. And they don't hit this, and they don't run cover 2 really the rest of the game, probably because of this. But the important thing to note is, again, it's the Vikings are seeing on film as the game goes on that they are baiting him to throw it out here, whether the guy's open or they're doing single coverage with a cornerback. They have less priority on this outside part of the field and more priority here. And where they could get away with it early in the game with Kevin King, they paid for it late once he was out of the game. Alright, so here's the Stephon Diggs 75-yard touchdown, and look at the elements of it and why it worked. This is a really good play call, and it was really called based off of tendencies. One thing that is really important is you refer back to what I was saying about how the Vikings were running play action and taking things over the middle. Well, this is actually, I don't think, let me see how the run block, if they block run or pass. So it looks like this is an RPO or play action because, well, it's definitely not an RPO because they're pass blocking, but it's a play action, and most importantly, this guy is coming over the middle. So what are two things, if you're a safety and you're watching this, you're thinking, right? Well, if it's a play action, what their point is, the whole goal of the play is to pull linebackers forward and throw it over the middle space. And so what happens? The safeties all favorite this middle part. So Kentrell Bryce comes crashing down because it's a play action and he's trying to take away this slant. And the safety sees this guy coming middle and thinks, okay, it's pulling the linebackers down, throwing it over the middle. So he takes this guy. I don't know why he leaves. I think that's Laquan Treadwell. I don't know why he leaves Stephon Diggs one-on-one. That's insane. But because they're playing the middle and daring him to throw it outside deep, it leaves this guy wide open, Diggs wide open, and he's on Tremont Williams, who's still a good player, but he doesn't run a 4-3 still like Kevin King does, and it just gets burned. Also, let me point out another thing of this play. You know how I mentioned earlier with whenever the cornerback, so in the third and fourth quarter, whenever the cornerback was playing deep and he's got outside leverage, he's responsible for this deep half of the field. And so you might think this could be cover three because Bryce is crashing down. He has outside leverage. He's middle field. But again, it's the Packers are attacking where they thought, where the Vikings had been attacking this whole time, which is this middle and these easy passes. Plus, Tramon Williams does have this deep half of the field. He has outside leverage. He's playing off. So Dix knows that he's covering that. But when it's Kevin King, this can be covered. When it's Tramon Williams, he's getting burned. And so Kevin King being out, coupled with what the Packers were showing tendency-wise and what they were daring Cousins to do, was the reason this touchdown play got opened. And it's it's what they saw on film. It's a great play call. And if we did have Kevin King, this could have maybe been, I mean, not that Diggs couldn't beat him, but we might have had a better shot at stopping this play. Last play I just want to talk about, again, this is the 2-point conversion that tied the game, and Diggs just runs sluggo. And, it's not to say if Kevin King were in the game, this wouldn't be complete, but when they tried to run up the field on Kevin King, he didn't bite too hard inside. That's one thing. He doesn't really bite on slants too hard when people do that, when you watch him on film. But secondly, they might not have looked as this is the first read if Kevin King were out here because of his speed and height. Now, Tramon Williams is slower, not quite as tall. Diggs can burn him being scatty. But when you have Kevin King, he can recover faster, he's agile, he doesn't bite as hard, and you'd have to throw it over his 6'3 frame. And not saying that Diggs might not have made this is huge separation. What I'm saying is maybe Cousins wouldn't have seen this as a first read, or maybe they wouldn't have called it like this if they would have thought King was on him. But, who knows? Maybe it would have been the same result. But him coming out kind of hurt us. And, so this kind of, concludes the breakdown of kind of what happened and how the game went, kind of what the two teams did going back and forth. And it's really interesting just to see how both these teams, like a lot of teams, draft players and play players, and you wonder why they do. And it's strictly, matchup based. Jamal Williams isn't the best runner of the ball, but why do they have him? He's an elite pass blocker. And you might think, oh, well, we need to run the ball better, and then we might not need that. No, I mean, the Vikings can stop the run. The Packers had to scheme run plays to be successful to keep everything going forward, but they couldn't just run at them all day long. Maybe if you get a better running back in there, like Aaron Jones, maybe they were a little more successful, but it's not going to work all day on them. It didn't work for San Francisco, who's a good run team. And so, they bring in Jamal Williams, who can pick up these blitzes, extend a play, and Aaron Rodgers and them are built to kind of break this defense. But, all in all, the offense didn't play all that amazing. Aaron Rodgers was hobbled, so it's understandable. He's not at 100%, but it was a really good scheme for the most part, what the Packers offense did, running the ball, picking up the blitz. And on top of it, if the holding penalty doesn't happen on Jimmy Graham, that's a touchdown. If the ridiculous call on Clay Matthews isn't called, they still win. The Packers outplayed them this whole game. They just kind of got burned late, showing some aggressive tendencies and trying to take away easy things. So it's going to be interesting in the next game to see how these teams come out, because the Packers are going to have to come up with a new scheme to try to be able to run the ball and get on the ball on them again and see what they can do with that. Hopefully, the Packers have King back, but they're going to have to be a little more conservative with their play calling, which allows Kirk Cousins to precisely use his good accuracy and decision making in the short game to beat them. They'll be able to stop the run again, unless Pat Elflein coming back creates a problem, matchup problem, which it might. But it's going to be interesting to see when these teams come back around how they decide to make their adjustments. But the Packers, in the past, I would have said won't beat the Vikings. This game really surprised me, though. If their pass blocking comes to play next time the way they did this time, they have another really good shot, and Jamal Williams will play a big part in that, I'm sure, again. And hopefully Aaron Jones coming, adding to that explosiveness of that run game, can really add a new element. But he's going to have to be able to pass protect, or else the Vikings will know they're one-dimensional when he's out there. So we'll see how that develops. And all in all, I mean, the Packers played a really smart game. A lot of players outside of their receivers stepping up and helping in Aaron Rodgers' injury and helping with the game plan. And so this is only one defense, and the Bears gave us a problem, but I was really worried when the Bears gave us a problem. But after seeing the line against the Vikings in this game play so well, them step up and play better in the second half of the Bears game, and then seeing how much the Bears destroyed Seattle last night, I have much more confidence in this offensive line moving forward. So now that we can get Aaron Jones back and run the ball a little more, and seeing what this offensive line from a pass protection standpoint can do, going forward, I have confidence in us. We just got to kind of get some things figured out on the defensive front if King's out for a bit. Not that it's a huge concern that he's out. He's not a shutdown corner elite superstar. And we're not going to play Stephon Diggs every week. Just when we have teams with speed and that can throw it outside and can run the ball, how are we going to adjust? All right, and that's going to wrap up my breakdown of this game and this matchup. I just wanted to take a moment to say a few things. One, I started this YouTube thing doing a bunch of different elements because I originally specialized in the draft and evaluating prospects, and I made a few of those. Didn't get a whole lot of hits. Then I started playing with some other things, and I made two of my biggest topic hits. I made a video on Corey Davis that ended up being quite a big hit. It has the most views. And then I've gotten some traction here doing with the Packer fan base, and as I am a Packer fan, getting people who enjoy these breakdowns and things. So I think going forward, I'm going to focus on two things. I'm going to keep putting out these Packers videos. And if you have any other requests in terms of the Packers or any questions, please don't feel free to leave something in the comments section. I can cover anything. I can go back a few years and break down a few things if you have questions about things we've done in the past, matchups coming up. I would really like to focus on the Packers because they are my team, so that would be great. And then finally, I'm going to start putting out stuff on fantasy football because the Corey Davis video seemed to be my biggest hit, and I play a lot of fantasy football, and I've usually have success with that, putting down a bunch of whys and stuff like that. So if anybody wants to see certain video breakdowns on players, or you just have questions about waiver wire stuff or why certain players are successful, I'm going to be coming out with videos on that, particularly when a player has a really big week and then you don't know whether to pick him up or not because it's a one-week wonder, or if he's going to be productive going forward. I plan to kind of start to evaluate and put out videos of that nature to try to help and get some views up. So if you're a Packer fan, you enjoy this, please share this with all your friends. And just in general, when I start releasing fantasy football content, start spreading the word, I'm picking up some subscribers, but could be moving forward a little faster with some more views and subscribers. So thank you to everyone for their support who have joined so far, and hopefully we can grow going forward. As always, thank you for watching this episode, and if you like my content and haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I plan to be releasing videos as often as I possibly can because ultimately I want to make a career out of this, whether it be self-supporting through YouTube videos like this or something else happens, I get picked up somewhere along the way. And if you like my videos and want to support me financially to continue to do this as often as I possibly can, my Patreon account's up to the top right. And if there's anything that you want me to do a video of or explain or answer, just leave in the comments section and I will be sure to get a video out as soon as I can on that. And I just want to again thank you so much for your support, and moving forward hopefully this can become a good thing.